Are you a fan of anime characters who are overpowered but lazy? Despite being overpowered, these characters choose to be socially aloof and stay away from all the activities that take effort. So, welcome back to Animeology, and today we will show you the top 10 animes where the overpowered main character is lazy but surprises everyone with his power. Before we begin, be sure to drop a like and subscribe down below for more anime top 10s, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. Number 10. Alderman of the Sky.
すべての英雄は過労で死ぬ。ふざけるな！生きたソローク!
Alderman of the Sky is a war anime which is centered around our main protagonist, Ikta Sorlock. Ikta Sorlock is lazy. Very lazy. He's even proud of being lazy despite being a soldier. Iktar hates war. Ironically though, he is a military genius, but is also lazy to the core, which is why he was eventually called the Lazy Invincible General. He compensates for his lack of combat skills with his genius strategies. Raised by a man who was accused and killed for treason, Ikta's talents don't remain hidden for very long. Found by the Empire's princess, he soon gets dragged straight into a war zone, his skills being the army's only hope for survival. This is a pretty underrated anime that hasn't been talked about that much, however, I can guarantee you that it will be worth your time. Number 9. Gintama. You know someone is lazy when he'd rather wet the bed than get up at night. That's our Gintoki, the man who had a 5-minute speech on why the truth of strawberry milk is the feeling of wetting the bed. Gintama is so lazy that he breaks the fourth wall just to skip a trope he finds bothersome. Gintoki could usually be found sitting on his sofa, picking his nose and lazing about. No job is too small for our protag-kun to procrastinate on. There was one time where Gintoki was about to enter a training arc, but he decided it was too much effort. Who needs a Shogun training arc anyway? But then again, Gintoki has enough power anyway. The power of his wooden blade is truly astonishing, and he'd be a war machine, if he could be troubled enough to do so. Gintama is probably one of my favourite animes ever. It contains almost all kinds of tags. Well, maybe not all, but it's a lot. One of the best comedies ever. The first few episodes, the anime was somewhat boring, but if you keep patient and continue watching, it will eventually become much better. Number 8. Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop is a legendary anime from the 90s. This anime has somehow managed to maintain its popularity in the anime community even after 20 years. The main character of this show, Spike Spiegel, is strong, smart, but lazy and laid back. Spike is a lazy, apathetic, confident, and extremely cool character. His modern cowboy-like demeanour makes him extremely likeable, but he treats his life like he's living in a dream. Spike has exceptional eyesight, complemented by his fake right eye. He is a great shot. Spike is normally sarcastic and lacks any qualms about killing people, and when bounty hunting, Spike would jump head first without paying any mind to his surroundings, and would often cause more damage to the environment than the bounty is worth. Cowboy Bebop is the greatest anime series ever, one of the all-time greatest anime series. This romp set in the year 2071 features plenty of action, but never skips on character development. The show ultimately features so many cross-ranging influences and nods to other famous work, it's almost impossible to keep track. Number 7. Kaze no Stigma. Kazuma Yagami is the protagonist of Kaze no Stigma. He is extremely lazy and unmotivated. Kazuma Yagami was originally part of the Kannagi family, a respected family of fire users who have an affinity to fire. However, after being easily defeated by his cousin Anyo and having no talent whatsoever for fire magic, Kazuma is banished and cast out from his family. As he was banished from his family, one would think that it would motivate him to prove his family wrong. You would be wrong to think that. It was completely forgotten that he was banished in the first place once the first arc reached completion. To make matters worse, he is extremely egotistical. Kaze no Stigma is a very enjoyable anime with great characters, though its art and sound departments are average, and the story has a few plot holes. It's a great anime. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this anime, and if you can put up with a few plot holes, then I would recommend this anime to anyone. Number 6. Gate. Yujimi Itami is a multifaceted character who is as strong and reliable as he is lovable. He's dorky in some ways, but also intelligent and full of surprises. Not to mention, he's a hardcore otaku. If you watch Gate, crushing on Itami is unavoidable. Yuji is the poster boy for us to believe in working smarter, not harder. He stated ardently that he only works in the Japanese self-defense force to support his otaku hobbies. Despite looking like an unmotivated slob to the audience and his peers, he's actually a second lieutenant and a Special Forces Ranger, despite finishing just barely good enough to qualify for both. Despite his lack of ambition when it comes to real combat, his tactical mind and superior combat training shows through. Yuji Itami being a Japanese self-defense force officer and otaku who happened to be present when a portal to a parallel world, the Gate, opened in the middle of Ginza in Tokyo, the third reconnaissance team headed by Itami was sent to the world beyond the Gate, dubbed the Special Area, in order to learn as much as possible about it. And so the Japanese self-defense force, along with Itami, an elf, a demigoddess, and a sorceress, continue to gather knowledge, allies, and get involved in conflicts between nations in our world as well as in the Special Area. Number 5. One Punch Man. I was pretty conflicted about putting Saitama on here. I mean, he isn't so lazy as he's just bored. He went through all that trouble to train his body to be a superhero, but defeating people with one strong punch is pretty boring after all. After enough wins, he gets bored with his superheroing and thus ends up a pretty lazy bum about it. Saitama is a very interesting character. You never know what he's going to do next or when he's going to punch the opponent. One Punch Man is one of the funniest and most entertaining anime series I've ever watched in my entire life. Number 4. Shaman King. Although Yo spends much of his time in the series fighting, people often forget his whole reason for doing so. Yo only wants to be the Shaman King because that would make him so powerful that he could just lounge around and do whatever. That's right, this Shonen hero has no noble motivations. He just wants to be all-powerful as an excuse to be lazy. Of course, he still possesses some pretty powerful combat skills. Shaman King is one of those shows that uses a basic story that has been done to death, yet still finds a way to make it stand out from all the other shows in its respective genre. Shaman King is the story of Yo Asakura, a lazy slacker who recently transferred to the school of the Manta Oyamada, who after meeting Yo tries to convince everyone that he saw ghosts, however nobody believes him. After discovering that through investigating him, Manta was injured by Ryonosuke Unamima and his gang, Yo decides to teach the gang a lesson with the assistance of the deceased spirit of the legendary samurai Amidamura. Number 3. Legend of the Legendary Heroes. Reiner is so naturally talented at so many different combat arts, it has led to his own lazy nature. To most people, he is sleepy and unmotivated, which makes it all the more surprising when he does do something, even if it's not even amazing. But it usually is pretty amazing anyway. Unfortunately, even lazy people can undergo a horrible trauma. In his case, it was the death of his classmates, which cured his laziness a bit as he tries to make the world a more peaceful place. Reiner Lute is actually quite an attractive character. He has similar looks to the male protagonist Kazuma from Kaze no Stigma. He has dark brown hair, brown eyes, red when the Alpha Stigma is activated. Despite the fact that he is incredibly powerful and quite the mage, he is also incredibly lazy. Being so obsessed with naps, he refers to himself as King of Naps. He also has dreams while napping, about naps. He is considered one of the strongest mages in Roland, a city ruled by King Sion Astal. This is because of his abilities called the Alpha Stigma and his ability in his eye. He was at first considered a monster for this. Many Alpha Stigmas would lose control when activated and kill many human beings. Number 2. Kazemikase Suki Keidran. Self-described beautiful woman, Ran is a legendary wandering swordsman. However, the only thing that can match her skills with a sword is her demonic lust for sake. Instead of looking for strong opponents, she prefers to spend her time drinking. Sometimes not even her friends can keep her on task when sake is nearby. But when she does draw her sword, look out. A fun, largely light-hearted romp through the Edo period countryside with a wandering female samurai and a martial artist going by the name of Lady Miao of the Iron Cat Fist. Yeah, I was a bit skeptical too, but just go with it. In short, Suki Keidran is an enjoyable little title provided you're not after anything particularly innovating or challenging. It requires little thought but is entertaining without being offensive and should easily fit with anyone's preferred pace of viewing. And number 1. Akashic Records of a Bastard Magic Instructor. Glenn isn't known as his alias, the Fool, for nothing. It's his attitude and lazy nature that hides everything badass about him. As an assassin and renowned magician killer, he has great combat skills. However, as a magic user, though well taught, his natural ability is somewhat lacking. In hindsight, Glenn may be the least likeable person to be a teacher thanks to his lax nature, his ignorance towards magic and, well, others. There seems to be one thing that motivates him: money. However, his laziness covers all that up, which is why the honour students he teaches strongly dislike him. It's safe to argue that you can throw in slice of life and perhaps romance comedy into a mix of genres because of some of the scenes in this series. The series is incredibly enjoyable to watch. It's action-packed with comedic flair that blends in really nicely to create a wonderful show.